Hello and welcome. We are live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrives in Israel as Washington reviews Hamas' response to hostage deal offer. US court rejects Donald Trump's immunity claim in 2020 election interference case. And Jordan make their way to maiden final appearance after historic victory against South Korea in AFC Asian Cup. All right, news in detail now. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is set to visit Israel and the West Bank later on Wednesday as the conflict in Gaza moves into its fourth month. Key mediators from US, Qatar and Egypt looking to end the fighting are confident a truce is achievable. As Sarah Coates reports from Tel Aviv.
Well, there's certainly quiet optimism here in the region that a deal may be done soon to end the war in Gaza and also free the remaining 130 or so Israeli hostages that remain in the Gaza Strip. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken holding a press conference with Qatar's Prime Minister on the back of a closed-door meeting in Doha. They said they received a response on the general framework of an agreement from Hamas. They say they cannot go into any details. They are reviewing and will discuss with the Israelis. Well, Blinken says there's still a lot of work to be done, but he believes an agreement is possible. Hamas releasing a statement of its own, saying it's responded to the proposal in a positive spirit, but wants to end the offensive. Now, on Wednesday, the Secretary of State will spend the day here in Israel. He'll land in Tel Aviv. He'll hold meetings here before travelling to Jerusalem, also the West Bank, where he'll meet with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. But certainly expected to be a tough day for the Secretary of State. He's up against the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, who remains firm in his stance that there will be no ceasefire until Israel's goals in the Gaza Strip are achieved. He came out earlier this week saying one of those goals is to kill every single Hamas leader. In Tel Aviv, Sarah Coates reporting for DD India.
And ahead of Blinken's visit, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre told a briefing on Tuesday that the US is reviewing Hamas's response to a hostage deal, asserting that there's still a lot to be done before having a final deal.
It is important that we get to a humanitarian deal. The president has been, and his team has been working around the clock to get this done. We want to make sure we get those hostages home, including the American hostages. We understand there are about 6 of them that are part of that, that are part of the folks who are still part of the hostages, I should be more clear, that are being held. We want to get them home. We want to make sure we get that all-important humanitarian aid to the Palestinian people. That's what we're working on.
Meanwhile, the US House of Representatives rejected a Republican-led bill on Tuesday that would provide $17.6 billion to Israel. Democrats said they wanted a vote instead on a broader measure that would also provide assistance to Ukraine, international humanitarian funding and new money for border security. Democratic President Joe Biden, who supports the Senate bill, has, however, promised to veto the House's Israel-only measure. The Iranian ambassador to the United Nations has denied his country is arming the Houthis as the Yemen-based rebels continue to take aim at vessels in the Red Sea. Amir Saeed Iravani told NBC News' Lester Holt that Iran is not at all responsible for the weapons being used by the group it allegedly funds. Those comments come as the Houthis successfully struck a British and a US ship on Tuesday, casting doubt on the effectiveness of several waves of Western strikes on missile sites belonging to the militants. And the United States accused Russia of firing at least 9 North Korean-supplied missiles at Ukraine on Tuesday, while Moscow labeled Washington a direct accomplice in the downing of a Russian military transport plane last month. Russia's UN Ambassador Vasily Nebenzia and Deputy US Ambassador to the UN Robert Wood traded the accusations at a UN Security Council meeting on Ukraine. Robert Wood said Russia has launched DPRK-supplied ballistic missiles against Ukraine on at least 9 occasions.
To date, Russia has launched DPRK-supplied ballistic missiles against Ukraine on at least 9 occasions. Russia and the DPRK must be held accountable for their actions, which undermine long-standing obligations under UN Security Council resolutions. These unlawful arms transfers and potential technology transfers from Russia to the DPRK undermine regional stability and the global non-proliferation regime, as well as the Security Council's credibility.
Meanwhile, Vasily Nebenzia accused Washington of direct involvement in the Russia-Ukraine war and said the state is a direct accomplice in this crime as well.
Today, we possess irrefutable evidence that a phased array tracking radar for intercept on target surface-to-air missile was used to carry out the strike, which leaves no doubt that Washington is a direct accomplice in the crime as well.
Reports of a strike hitting a bakery in Russia-occupied eastern.
And ahead of his visit to Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, UN nuclear watchdog chief Rafael Grossi met Ukrainian President Zelensky in Kiev on Tuesday. Grossi discussed the current security situation and potential risk at the occupied plant with Zelensky. Grossi plans to visit the plant to assess its feasibility of reducing staff and the safety of its aging uranium fuel. President Volodymyr Zelensky ordered the creation of a separate branch of Ukraine's armed forces devoted to drones, which is a key part of the conduct of the war against Russia on Tuesday. Zelensky signed a decree calling on the government and general staff of the armed forces to work out issues on the creation within the forces of a separate force for drone systems. As per Zelensky's decree, the results of the study would be submitted to the policy-making National Security and Defense Council. Government said Ukraine aims to produce tens of thousands of drones every month. Now, Swedish prosecutors investigating the 2022 Nord Stream pipeline blast are expected to make a key announcement this week. They could reveal if a suspect is finally being charged in the case after months of speculation. So far, no one has claimed responsibility for the attacks, nor has anyone been held responsible. Moving on to our next story now, the judge overseeing Donald Trump's civil fraud case has questioned whether a key witness committed perjury or lying under the oath during the former president's trial. In a letter docketed, Judge Arthur Angoron asked lawyers in the case to provide him with a letter detailing anything you know about the situation involving Alan Weisselberg, the former chief financial officer of the Trump organization. Judge Angoron, who was set to deliver the verdict on January 31st, now aims to finish the case by mid-February. Trump, the frontrunner for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination, is accused in the lawsuit of inflating his net worth by billions of dollars to secure better loan terms. Trump has denied wrongdoing and called the case a political vendetta. Meanwhile, in another blow that brings the former US president a step closer to an unprecedented criminal trial, a federal appeals court on Tuesday said Donald Trump does not have immunity from charges he plotted to overturn his 2020 election defeat. A 3-judge panel flatly rejected Trump's arguments that he shouldn't have to go on trial on federal election subversion charges. The panel said the allegations are related to his official responsibilities as president. The court concluded that any executive immunity that may have shielded Trump from criminal charges while he served as president no longer protects him against this prosecution. Trump has vowed to appeal on the ruling. Now, the question remains whether the Supreme Court will take up a review of the decision. Legal experts say the claim makes no sense as no man is above the law.
It's always been American law that no man is above the law, and they say that several times, and they quote prior decisions that say no man is above the law, and they say it's just hopelessly inconsistent to have a clause in the Constitution that says the president must take care to faithfully execute the laws which is in there in Article 1, and then have a system under which he is the only person in the country who could not be prosecuted for a violation of those laws. And they say that's an impossible contradiction, and so to take care to enforce the laws really means the president, again, is not above the law.
Under the heir to the throne, Prince William will undertake his first ceremonial duties on Wednesday since his father, King Charles, was diagnosed with cancer. Britain's head of state spoke with his younger son, Prince Harry, on Tuesday, having flown in the same day from his home in California. All right, we'll slip into a very short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India Live. In Sri Lanka, the 5th session of the 9th Parliament ceremonially declared open today by President Ranil Wickremesinghe. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will reply to the motion of thanks in Rajya Sabha, the upper house of the Indian Parliament, on the presidential address delivered to a joint house session on 31st January.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Some more stories. The 5th session of the 9th Parliament of Sri Lanka was inaugurated by President Ranil Wickremesinghe. Presenting the policy statement, Wickremesinghe announced key economic highlights of his government. Plans for economic revival, which included debt restructuring strategy in the first 6 months of the year, were unveiled. Wickremesinghe said tourism and industry was taking a positive turn, adding positives for the island nation. As economic reforms continue to stabilize the economy, plans were outlined to reduce the tax burden, revising VAT percentage to further support growth. The President expressed optimism about achieving economic growth of 2% to 3% this year. Now, Pakistan tightens security and sets up voting stations a day before general elections. The South Asian nation will go to polls on Thursday in a widely watched election that will lead to the formation of a new government. The elections are taking place after months of delay, as the country has been at the center of political, economic and judicial drama over the past year. The February 8 elections will take place for 336 seats in Pakistan's National Assembly, the lower house of parliament, along with 4 provincial assemblies. The top contenders include former PM Nawaz Sharif and Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, chairman of Pakistan People's Party. 3 Senegalese opposition lawmakers were arrested on Tuesday amid the fallout from Parliament's move to delay a presidential vote by 10 months that prompted West Africa's economic and political bloc to call for the re-establishment of the electoral calendar. On Monday, lawmakers approved a last-minute amendment to hold the vote on December 15th instead of February 25th, sealing an extension of President Macky Sall's mandate that has sparked street protests and international alarm. Later on Tuesday, ruling coalition lawmakers held a press conference to defend the move, urging citizens to take part in a national dialogue to ensure a free and transparent vote. Now, Colombia's government and National Liberation Army rebels have agreed to extend a landmark truce deal that expired last week. The bilateral ceasefire extended for another 6 months starting Tuesday, the same day they announced the creation of a fund backed by multiple donors to finance the process. President Gustavo Petro signed in August last year a deal with ELN for a 180-day halt in fighting following lengthy negotiations. The truce was lengthened by 5 days after it expired last week. Although the ELN suspended kidnappings during negotiations, its leaders asked the government for financial resources, among other items. Pablo Beltran, head of the ELN's negotiation team, said that the fund must be managed with transparency to avoid any corruption. At least 10 people were killed and many injured in blasts at a popular open-air market in Mogadishu, Somalia. The Islamist group Al-Shabaab is known for bombings in Somalia and other countries. The government was not immediately available for comments. Bakara, Mogadishu's largest market, is where most residents buy daily items like food, clothes, medicines and electronics. Now, a severe rainfall caused power outages and water shortages in Holbox, Mexico. Leaving tourists without power and water, the cold front number 32 affected the island, causing material losses and power outages, but no fatalities or injuries were reported. Moving on, Southern California experienced heavy rainfall, leaving flooded streets, mudslides and debris. Flood watch was in effect for much of Southern California, with flash flood warnings posted for the Orange County coast and flood advisory issues as far south as San Diego and US-Mexico border. The latest storm, a less powerful one, also qualified as a Pineapple Express originating from subtropical waters around Hawaii. Cleaning efforts continue in San Diego and Orange County. Now, Chile has experienced a devastating wildfire that has killed at least 131 people in recent days, with only 35 identified victims and hundreds missing. The fires, which broke out late last week and spread to central Chile, have become the country's worst national disaster since the 2010 earthquake. President Gabriel Boric has urged funds to be directed towards the hardest hit areas, many of which are popular with tourists. Now, Chilean ex-president Sebastian Pinera died in a helicopter crash in southern Chile, prompting outpouring of condolences from Latin American leaders. Pinera, who served 2 non-consecutive terms between 2010 and 2022, often spent his summers near picturesque lakes and frequently piloted his own helicopter. President Gabriel Boric declared 3 days of national mourning, and preparations have begun for a state funeral on Friday. The other 3 passengers survived the incident. The Brazilian city of Rio de Janeiro has declared a dengue health emergency just days ahead of Carnival's kickoff, where thousands of people are expected to be partying outdoors. According to official data released, Brazil has registered more than 260,000 probable cases of dengue fever since January. There have been 29 confirmed deaths and 173 deaths are under investigation. To cope with the rise in cases, local health authorities have announced the opening of 10 care centers, the creation of an emergency operations center, and the allocation of hospital beds for dengue patients. The announcement comes as tourists and revelers are pouring into Rio to take part in street parties and attend the Samba School's flamboyant parades. Now, Fiji's Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister, Professor Biman Prasad, will become the first foreign leader to offer prayers at the newly built Ram Temple at Ayodhya when he travels there this week. The temple was consecrated by India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on 22nd January. In an exclusive interview to DD India's Ramesh Ramachandran in New Delhi, the visiting minister said that the consecration ceremony was watched live by the Indian diaspora in Fiji. He said that Hindu temples across the southern Pacific island nation of Fiji celebrated the occasion with Ramayana recitals. It was a national event in many ways. Take a listen.
Well, it was marked by a massive celebration, jubilation in Fiji. In fact, the Indian High Commission in Fiji, together with Sri Sanatana Dharmapatinidhi Sabha of Fiji, which is the largest religious, Hindu religious body, And there were 5 national programs within the country. Apart from that, obviously we have this very large number of small Ramayana mandals, a feature which is probably unique to Fiji, where they recite Ramayana every week, whether it's a Tuesday or a Friday, and so all these
every week without fail.
Every week without fail, every fortnight without fail, depending on where across Fiji. And so, to mark the occasion, there was this national celebration in all the temples, the mandalis, where Ramayana was recited. Ayodhya remembered, our forefathers remembered, as part of the journey of Fiji Indians, in particular Hindus. In fact, I was part of the last program on the 22nd, and while there are other activities going on, there was a pause to watch the Honorable Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi ji being part of the Pran Pratishtha celebration in Ayodhya on the 22nd. So it was a national event in many ways.
And following the brutal attack on the Indian student Saeed Mazahir Ali, the Consulate General of India in Chicago, USA, assured that they have contacted local authorities investigating the case. Moreover, the US authorities have also assured all the possible assistance will be provided to the victim and his wife in India. And with an aim to boost cooperation in the field of agriculture, the first meeting of India and Iran Joint Working Group was held in the national capital, New Delhi. During the meeting, officials of both the countries emphasized on increasing cooperation in the field of balancing the import and export of agricultural products between the two nations. India's Minister of State for Defence Ajay Bhatt is currently on a 5-day visit to Saudi Arabia from February 4th to 8th for the World Defence Show 2024. The visit has yielded a significant milestone with the signing of a memorandum of understanding that underscores the deepening collaboration between India and Saudi Arabia in the field of defence. The MOS Defence, during his visit to Riyadh, actively engaged in discussions with key Saudi officials, including Defence Minister Khalid bin Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, where they discussed avenues for collaboration aimed at enhancing regional security. With an aim to further strengthen India-Bangladesh ties, Bangladesh Foreign Minister Dr. Hassan Mahmood arrived in New Delhi on Wednesday on a 3-day visit to India. During his visit, Dr. Mahmood is slated to engage in several meetings in addition to his planned bilateral discussions with India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. Earlier, Bangladesh Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson Saheli Sabreen said that issues of mutual interest, including trade, connectivity and energy cooperation, people-to-people contacts and regional cooperation will be discussed between the two sides at the bilateral meeting to further strengthen Bangladesh-India relations. Now, Guyana's Prime Minister Mark Phillips received a warm welcome on his arrival in India on Tuesday. As per the Ministry of External Affairs, the visit will further strengthen the multifaceted relationship between the two countries. Guyana's PM is scheduled to hold a meeting with India's President Draupadi Murmu. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will reply to the motion of thanks to President's address in the upper house of the Parliament. Earlier this week, Prime Minister had responded to the motion of thanks to President's address in Lok Sabha. Indian Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar attended the centenary ceremony of the Indraprastha College for Women on Wednesday. The historic college, which was founded in 1924, marks an eventful 100-year anniversary. Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar addressed the gathering, emphasizing on the role of women in nation building. There will be MOU between Indian Council of World Affairs and Indraprastha Mahila Mahavidyalaya. Now, India's anti-money laundering agency Enforcement Directorate has moved to court against New Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal for not appealing for questioning in money laundering case related to Delhi liquor policy scam, despite being summoned for 5 times. The Rouse Avenue Court has reserved order on ED's petition against CM Kejriwal, and the court will pronounce its order today at 4 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Now, ENGIE, a low-carbon energy solutions provider in India, is working on decarbonization and green energy initiatives at the India Energy Week. Recently, ENGIE secured a 400-megawatt solar project in Gujarat. ENGIE India, the Indian arm of French energy giant, plans to invest in India, especially in green hydrogen sphere. DD India's Prasar Bharati spoke to Amit Jain, CEO and Country Manager India, ENGIE. Here's more.
Joining me is Amit Jain, the CEO of ENGIE India, to talk about India's growth when it comes to renewable energy sector. So, we have been seeing India taking a leap when it comes to renewable energy in the last 10 years. How do you see that sector growing up under Prime Minister Narendra Modi's leadership?
India is growing in terms of renewables, right? As you said, the government and our Prime Minister here in India, set ambitious targets to about 500 gigawatt by 2030. The target was about 5 years ago, it was 175 gigawatts. So there's been a massive uptick in the targets, right? For us as a company, we are French headquartered, but we are a global company. So we see India as one of the priority markets for us, especially in India. The idea is to grow, from about a 2 gigawatt platform, add about 800 to 1 gigawatt every year for the next 5 years, and take it to about 5 gigawatt platform.
Tell us more about that, and how do you want to, put your ambition in India?
So what we've done is we've selected states. India is a large country, of course, right? So the idea is to be very selective in our approach. So we selected key states, right? So Gujarat is one of the focus states. It gives us good policy support. The government is conducive to the renewable growth, and we have done a lot of projects there already. And the idea is to take it to the next level and do about 2.5 gigawatt by 2030 in the state of Gujarat itself.
How do you think green hydrogen is going to make a major impact on that?
The idea is to look at how we can use the RE experience in developing green hydrogen or green ammonia, service the customers maybe outside India to begin with, and then as the market matures in India itself, to look at customers in India as well. Because indeed a lot of our customers, as part of the decarbonization goal, have green hydrogen in their bucket list or their wish list. But the idea is to grow that as we go along, as the technology matures, as the prices come down.
That was Amit Jain saying that it is high time that Indian government is working on close coordination with the companies in renewable sector, and they are also planning to set shop, especially in the state of Gujarat and other places, and help India become carbon net neutral by 2070. With camera person Ajit, this is Taposh Bhattacharya for DD India from Goa.
Well, sports now. India will tour Zimbabwe for T20I series in July, right after the T20 World Cup in the West Indies and the USA. Zimbabwe Cricket Board and the Board of Control for Cricket in India on Tuesday announced that Zimbabwe will host India for 5-match series in Harare starting July 6th. This is India's 4th trip to Zimbabwe for a T20I series after 2010, 2015 and 2016. India have never played a bilateral series against Zimbabwe at home, but they have toured the African country in the past. BCCI Secretary Jay Shah said it's an exciting phase in world cricket as Zimbabwe cricket is rebuilding, and India would do its best to support the growth of cricket in the country. On to soccer now. Musa Tamari scored a brilliant curling strike to stun two-time winners South Korea and send Jordon to their first Asian Cup final on Tuesday with a 2-0 victory. Yazan Al-Naimat put Jordon ahead at the start of the second half with a clever dink before Tamari doubled their lead with a superb solo effort. Jordon had never gone beyond the quarterfinals before this year's tournament. They will face host Qatar or Iran in Saturday's final. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.